People are very, very excited for this one for all the right reasons. In the top left side, we are looking at the main base of the man who's not been having the greatest 2023 so far in StarCraft 2. But I said it before and I'll say it again. Even a Gabe that doesn't feel like the strongest Gabe ever is still a terrifying Terran player. Representing Mouse Sports, it's HeroMarine.
And in the bottom right, on the up and up over the last couple months, for Team Liquid, we know him as Miko. It's Elazer.
Elazer historically always has one tournament every year, every 2 years, where he just blows everyone away and he shows up and he has a run that we'll talk about for a very, very long time. Of course, he's a DreamHack champion from the past, has made it into the semi-finals of BlizzCon a very long time ago, made it into the grand finals of GSL versus the World. This year, I feel like we had a couple tournaments where we're like, oh, Elazer looks good, but I think nothing that truly stood out yet. So perhaps this season of the Europe Regionals is going to be that one tournament where Elazer will have one hell of a run and can even, like, I think he's a serious contender for top 4, but so is Gabe, right? Gabe will always be a top 4 contender. Just that it's so hard to actually get there in Europe, because you look at a Serral, a Rainer, and a Clem, and you think that 3 spots for top 4 are almost locked up. These days, Max Pax is incredibly freaking good as well, and of course, you can never count out a man like Lambo in a Europe Regionals like this. So it is very hard for both of these guys to make top 4, but I do believe that is what they're aiming for, and I think they have the skills to still get that done.
And you know what's interesting as well is this Ogeron. Nah, it's gonna get saved. Okay. If you think about it, you talk about Elazer always has that one tournament where he looks really good and does whatever. I feel like for the last couple years, it's been the fall tournament. You know, last year he topped his group, I think, in the fall or the fall-winter tournament. I think the year before, same idea. So, you know, Roddy, as the leaves change, as the chill enters the air, Elazer, I guess he does start to turn it on. So I'm buying into what you're selling. I think we're going to get a really good series here. But for now, HeroMarine playing pretty standard, right? Barracks, Command Center, Factory, Starport, third base on the way. If I had to close my eyes, and granted, this is only map 1, right? This is not anything particularly crazy yet. But if I had to close my eyes, or I took away the nameplates, I'd be looking at this build and say, oh, it's Clem. You know, this is third base, Hellion Reaper, Reaper Hellion, something like that. Hellion Reaper Banshee eventually. This is the thing that we see Clem do more than anything else.
Yes, I think it's a build that if it's not Banshees, by the way, it's Ravens, so that's a little bit different. Not something we've never seen before, but I would say it's the least common of all of them, where every now and then it's Hellion, like a Viking into a Liberator, or it's just Hellion Banshee, but I think Gabe has also done this incredibly often, especially if Gabe is feeling confident in his TVZ. He will pretty much always open up triple CC with a couple of Hellions, and yeah, then what comes out of the starport first is a bit of a guessing game, but it all looks very standard, and it's definitely not something that we don't see Gabe do very often.
Now, Roddy, how do you feel about the lack of Cyclones? Now, obviously they're not 100% meta yet. This balance patch is very new. This is the first, well, I guess because we have the GSL happening, the second big tournament that we really have on it. And we've seen a lot of Terrans going for the two Cyclones, the 4 Cyclones into that Hellion play. HeroMarine, though, he's one of these guys that I would have expected to really latch onto that idea. He loves his battle mech. He loves the Cyclone pressure, at least he used to against Protoss players. We're not seeing it here in this game 1. How do you feel about that?
Well, Gabe has definitely tried. He has experimented a lot with different kind of Cyclone openings. And there could only be 2 reasons why we're not seeing it that much yet in the early stages of this tournament. Reason number 1 is that Gabe just generally believes that it's not all that great and that it's a whole lot better to play quote-unquote standard. Option number 2 is that there may be 1 or 2 openings that he is very fond of, but he doesn't want to use them now. And that's something that he's going to hold in his pocket until we get into the playoffs. Because if Gabe did find some sort of Cyclone opening that he is very happy with, that he feels is absolutely the correct way to at least play once in a best of 3 or in a best of 5, why would you do it in round 2 of the Swiss format when we all expect Gabe to make it out of the group stage anyway? Wouldn't you wait until you run into a Lambo, Elazer, Serral, or Rainer in the playoffs? So that could also be it, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Save the builds for where they really do matter. And Big Gabe builds are famous for a reason. That's how he hit top 4 at Katowice 2 years ago, just with these really strong timing pushes. And I think we talk about Swiss stage and how it makes every match matter. You lose a game, you're one step towards elimination. You win a game, you're one step towards qualification. But I think for a player like HeroMarine, he's going to be very confident that even if he doesn't get out there 3-0 or something, which is always going to be hard, he's going to be very confident that he's going to get into the playoffs in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, don't show your crazy stuff yet. But for now, Raven, half damage, which is starting to hit the point where maybe you feel like you got to back up just a little bit, but he's still putting pressure on the map right now, and Ling's on the left side. Look.
Sorry, a lot of Lings indeed were running into the Marines, and I was wondering if Gabe was paying attention there. I do think we have to point out as well how many Hydras Elazer has been producing of 66 drones. I know he's going up to 5 bases, so he can always decide that once he feels he's got more than enough units to crank out a few more drones. But at this point, I think Gabe needs to be a bit careful because there are so many Hydras. Losing a Raven like that is obviously not exactly the sweetest trade-off ever. There is a single Widowmine there, and HeroMarine does not unburrow it. Elazer is setting up a counter-attack, by the way, Bio.
This is crazy from Elazer. Not only is he building a lot of Hydras, that's an important thing to point out, Roddy. There's no Baneling Nest. This is Hydraling. He's got it. I was going to say this feels like a Hydraling all in, but he's got an Infestation Pit on the way, adding in that second Evo. This is not a style of Zerg that we've seen in... If we've seen it before, I certainly can't remember it. This is cool.
Gonna pick up these 2 Widowmines as well. The Lynx and Hydra taking a decent fight against the initial squad of Marines, but now the Hellions are gonna morph into Hellbats, and the fact that you don't have any Banelings could become problematic. The Hydras are kind of stuck in the bottom right side. I mean, in the end, who is surrounding who is strapping who? HeroMarine obviously gets a good start to this fight, but now the reinforcements have shown up, and is there enough firepower in the Zerg army to force Gabe to at least pick up all these units? The answer is yes. Definitely a painful trade though for Elazer, right? Like 8 Hydras. Hydras are expensive. Now your units are out of position. Queens cannot just jump into your main base, and HeroMarine is starting to run away a little bit with game 1 because this is a lot of damage that he's done. I hope for Elazer that he can at least pick off one of these medevacs, but that is not the case. And you look at the left side, there are so many units steering towards the bottom side of the map. This is where Gabe should be able to have a good old time playing TVZ.
Elazer's got a second infestation pit on the way. I guess worried about getting it sniped. I don't know, but okay, medevac 1 goes down. Second one, he's gonna try to knock it, but there's a tank here as well. Marine tank against Ling Hydra is so Marine tank favored. That is not even funny. And I don't know, we don't have lurkers on the way just yet. That's what Elazer's looking for. He wants to get this incredible lurker timing, but he's not there yet. This drop in the main base gets 5 more drones. And that's what it was. Okay, so I was wondering, why in the world is there a second infestation pit on the way? Elazer thought he got the lurker den because that was sniped by HeroMarine. It was canceled out. There's no lurker den. It's now getting made. So this Hydraling idea, that's all that Elazer has. The Hydras, they do a lot of damage, Roddy, but they don't have attack upgrades. They just live a little longer. They have that carapace. Elazer, he needs these lurkers desperately, but even as he gets them, he's not going to have seismic spines. He's not going to have lurkers. He's not going to have lurker speed. It's just gonna be your bog standard lurker, and against this nearly maxed out Gabe, Roddy, I don't think that's enough. These queens, 5 queens, they're all gonna go down here as well. Now Elazer, he's gonna try to take the fight, but it's far too little. It's far too late. HeroMarine can pick up at this point. He can run away. He is so happy with what he just found. Look at the moves. HeroMarine, well, actually, as we say that, medevacs, they're not boosting here. That's a bounty. That's finally something for Elazer. Something that makes him a little bit happier.
Yep, tank as well. That tank was left by itself, all in the middle of nowhere. So in the end, Elazer gets 2 full medevacs of Marines, and he gets a tank. But yeah, losing those 5 queens, losing the hatchery, losing a decent amount of links, obviously all of it is very painful. But maybe with all those pickups, Gabe is now not maxed out. Elazer will be able to buy himself some more time, and perhaps we can see a couple of these lurkers come into play. Seismic Spines is on the way. At the moment, it is not about the lurkers yet. We have Hive, but we haven't seen Adrenal Glands yet, and that's a bit of a shame because he's pretty Ling heavy. We've got 60 Lings. That hatchery does not get cancelled, by the way, so that is another victory for Gabe. Elazer's going to run into all these Marines and tanks. It is a bit on creep. We have a Blinding Cloud. Might actually be an alright fight here for Hydra Ling.
And then flank coming in from the reinforcements as well. Yeah, the first fight's pretty good for Elazer, but the second one, it's a concave for Gabe at the end of the day. Marauders getting on top as well, but Marauders, they actually don't fight Hydras really well at all. They die very quickly, so Elazer will clean this up for now, but that was expensive. That was a lot of Hydras going down. 20 dead Hydras, Roddy. When you play a style like this, you're trying to not trade your Hydras out. They're not supposed to die. Losing 20 of them like that. And also, and HeroMarine, he has the high ground here as well. It's going to be a rough couple minutes here for Elazer. He tries to desperately get these lurkers out, but Roddy, are 3 lurkers, are they going to be enough?
If they're in the right spot, I think they will be, because Gabe doesn't have a crazy force here. We don't have any Liberators or Ghosts yet, so it would be kind of hard. Gabe has loaded up 2 Medivacs that he's going to send into the main base, but the Hydras were in a pretty good spot. More Zerg units showing up, so Elazer should be able to clean this up without losing too much. But how exposed are these lurkers now in the third base, in the triangle? They are kind of exposed, but they're still somewhat tanky. 2 of them survive for a little while. The third one is going to fall too in the end, and well, I gotta say, that went a lot better for Elazer than I thought it would, and I think it went a lot better for Elazer than HeroMarine thought it went as well, because that double drop got shut down, and then Gabe thought, I can just stim forward and get on top of the lurkers, right? But lurkers are just so freaking hard to take out when you have only a couple of Marines running forward.
Yeah, and now we're in this situation where the lurkers, they don't have massive attack upgrades. They only got +1, but their splash units, any attack upgrade affects them a lot more than most. So they're online for the most part. 2-3 is on the way, 10 lurkers on the way here. But HeroMarine is okay in his timing now. He's adding in Ghosts here. He's got +2 mech attack, and more importantly, he's a 5-base Terran against a 5-base, well, actually really closer to a 4-base Zerg at the moment. 5th and 6th base on the way. This, yes, HeroMarine, the last minute or so, he wasn't able to break Elazer supply now looking good. But he's starting to get to where he needs to be. That being said, the lurker's going to burr up on the other side. Snipes. Oh, 1 Ghost evaporates, Roddy. And the tank line here, it's not killing these all that quickly just yet. A couple of lurkers are going to survive for quite a while. But as this drop into the main base, sniping, looking to get the lurker den. No more lurkers here. The one thing that Elazer's been fighting for this entire game to try to find, it's sniped for the second time. This timing, again, woefully slowed down.
Yeah, but he does still have 12 of them. Now, a couple of them are in a bit of a pickle, and it seems that most of them will fall. Gabe stims forward one more time. We'll be able to clean up those 3 remaining lurkers. So the 12 lurkers now turn into 7 lurkers, and that's obviously great news for Gabe. But that got really scary for a split second, and I wonder if there was even a better position up there for grabs for Elazer. It was hard, obviously, to get in range of these tanks, but maybe he could have moved them a bit closer towards the middle line. There is only a single Viper, and it's going to be hard to get that much value out of a single Viper, especially when it's this low in HP. And Elazer is going to try to make some magic happen against the Gabe, who's got an orbital in the center of the map.
That Gabe's on like 5 orbitals right now as well. Now that's a great blinding cloud. Ghosts looking for the snipes as they can. This army of HeroMarine, the lurkers aren't in range. They're not fighting, and now they are. But there's Hydras dead. Look at this army of Elazer. It's getting annihilated. Yeah, the lurkers, they fight a little bit, but HeroMarine, he just, in the straight up fight, he shreds this. And for the most part of this game, Elazer's been trading very well. Within 1,000 resources of HeroMarine. That was 3,000 resources in the good. That was so expensive for Elazer in this last fight. And now HeroMarine, he's hit his tech timings. He's got everything he could possibly want. He's the one that gets to be on the map. He gets to snipe this queen down, maybe. And that was the timing. Elazer doesn't even have he doesn't have a lurker den anymore. He can't build more lurkers. It's just Hydraling. And against 3-3 bio, what is 1-2, 2-3 Hydraling supposed to do?
No. We're going to try to drop a blinding cloud. There's a lot of tanks, not too much bio here. This is a weird attack. HeroMarine playing World of Tanks over here as the tanks are just rolling forward up a ramp. In the end, the reinforcements are going to show up, and the final tank that siege up will be good enough. That looked a little bit clumsy there. Elazer also had so much money while he was taking that one questionable fight near that orbital in the center of the map. The Hydra is obviously a bit too far forward. You said it, the lurkers, they were just not participating in the fight. But almost an even bigger problem was that he's taking that fight with 1,900 minerals, 1,000 gas in the bank. Didn't rebuild the lurker then. Also didn't have adrenal glands. Now he didn't have that many links anymore at that point. But yeah, you can take a fight when the game has been that close, that competitive, and obviously back and forth, and yes, Elazer was in trouble, but he found a few victories here and there. I think taking a fight like that, where you're not maxed out with that many resources in the bank, that's always going to be, I think, a little bit tough. And then, especially if you fight without your lurkers, it's going to get really tough.
Yeah, and you know, kind of going into that fight, you're right. I think that I look at that game and I'm like, wow, you know, a lot of Hydras died. The lurker den sniped twice. That's rough. But you look at it, it's like, actually, you know what? I don't think Elazer was in that bad of a spot, and making Hydra Ling look competitive against a Terran player that had Hellbats for a time, that had all these tanks. That's kind of crazy. But what do you think, Haradi? Do we see this again? Is it a map specific thing, or is this just how Elazer thinks the best way to play the matchup is right now? Because if he does, that is at polar opposites from how Rainer's playing, how Serral's playing, how Dark's playing, how Solar's playing, how literally every other top tier Zerg is playing. So it's different. Is this just Elazer's approach?
I think it will be map dependent.
Okay.
But yeah, I think a lot of Zergs are still trying to find out what they love the most. Because the Bailing obviously is no longer the same. And a lot of people only looked at the Bailing and be like, oh, that's going to help Protoss a little bit. But it makes a big difference, especially in this matchup. Where in the past, you had the Marines standing their ground, but then a few Bailings would sneak through and they would connect with the big clump of Marines. You'd be like, oh, okay, that was another victory for the Zerg. It is just harder. So I think the Zergs have just been experimenting with a lot of different openings. We know that Serral loves the Roach, whether it's the 2 base or the 3 base, or we're making a whole bunch of them, or they are temporary to transition into something else. I don't think Elazer is a massive lover of Roaches in ZVT. So he's probably just experimenting with a whole bunch of different styles.
Yeah, he's very much been one of these guys that he's going to do a Mutiling Bane all-in, which feels crazy, but he's definitely done it. He's going to go Baneling Bust. He's going to go and rely on these really the units that feel like Zerg units. Roaches, they're not as swarmy, right? You can max out on them, but when I think of like archetypical Zerg units, it's Hydras, it's Lings, it's Mutas, it's Banelings, it's things like that. So Elazer, in part, it kind of feels like he's like this distillation of what Zerg might be. The swarms, everything else. But for now, we're going to get into game 2, and we're going to see whether Elazer does it again, whether something else happens. Because game 2, it's here. And in the upper left, in the blue, some crazy Hydraling lurker rushing. Big shenanigans. Down 1 now for Team Liquid. Elazer.
And in the bottom right side of site Delta, the man that has been representing his org for over 10 years now, I believe. Mouse Sports, HeroMarine.
He's in the top 5, I think, of longest single team esports connections of across esports. Actually, they gave him the, I mean, you were there at Home Store Cup where they gave him it was the 10-year poster, the 10-year nice painting that they got for him.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really cool to see that Gabe has been happy with them for so long and that they have been happy with Gabe. Let's hope for Gabe that he can continue to be very happy today, because I'm sure he's somewhat pleased with how that first game played out. A couple of beauty errors here and there and 1 or 2 drops not quite working out, but overall the pace felt good, and I do think that HeroMarine had a good read on the game and where he was at. That final attack of the ramp looked a little bit derpy, but maybe that was just one of these moments where Gabe truly believed that after holding in the center of the map, protecting that orbital, sniping the lurker then earlier, that it was over, right? Sometimes players just know that it's over, and yeah, then they'll attack with a bunch of unsieged tanks, and they're like, but it's because they've got Ghost.
Yeah, it's at a certain point, you've just won the game, so why prolong it? But yeah, you're right, Roddy. It is a bit interesting here as we take a look at what's happening. I'm kind of surprised. We talked about that last game a little bit. I'm surprised that Elazer didn't even get a Baneling Nest. I understand that you don't get a Baneling Nest, right? That's 50 gas, but more importantly, you don't build, say, 50 Banes. That's a lot of gas you haven't spent. So that gets you into Hive Tech faster, that gets you into Lurker Den faster, it gets you more Hydras, but it feels like the Baneling Nest is almost just necessary against a lot of Terran builds, certainly early aggression type things that I don't know, that felt very greedy. Curious to see where he goes for it again, but for now, a drone. Okay, he forces 2 cancels here, and already that's not a drone, right, Roddy? But that's still a pretty decent victory.
Yeah, but this is one of these maps where I do feel the Reaper shows up kind of early, and it's hard as a Zerg to handle everything perfectly. So I think as long as we don't lose any drones, or of course you don't want to see 5 drones morphing into buildings, because at that point we're getting super carried away. But I think this is clean enough for Elazer that he should be happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's about half a drone, like a third of a drone if you force 2 cancels or force 2 spore cancels, so it's something. But behind this, of course, for Elazer, third base on the way. That's not too far delayed. HeroMarine, same thing we saw in game 1. Reaper expand, third base, Hellion Banshee type idea. No Cyclones on the way is the big thing. So for now, either he doesn't think he needs Cyclones to beat Elazer, or he just doesn't seem to be a fan of them at the moment.
Or he's hiding it, or he's not a fan. Knowing Gabe, I don't think he's necessarily a fan, but Gabe is also a player that will never truly give up. I feel like he might not believe in Cyclones at the moment, or unless once more he's hiding something for the playoffs or when he thinks it's a better moment to bust it out. But I'm sure that he's still going to experiment with different openings on different maps, and obviously you're going to have certain builds that are just good on maps X or Y and are not going to be good across the board. And that's also the beauty of StarCraft, right? We don't want to have one build that's great on every single map and should always be the default opening. Maybe Gabe has something, but we just haven't seen him play on those maps yet, or he just truly does not believe in it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something we're going to be watching as this series goes on, maybe into game 3. Maybe Elazer's got something in store for us. For now, no quick lair, nothing like that. Just speed's done, being as greedy as possible, as every Zerg wants to do in the early game. You get as many drones out as possible, and then maybe you start to do something. So right now, he's eventually going to get that lair. In fact, getting started here with that next 100 gas, and then we're going to see exactly what Elazer wants to do. But there we go. Okay, Baneling Nest is on the way. I was going to say, you know, generally you want to get the Baneling Nest started a third of the way through the lair to make sure you can get a Baneling speed started very quickly, and Elazer's got that one. So already just a tiny bit of a tell that he's not going for the crazy Hydra Ling thing that we saw in game 1.
I kind of like the idea of just playing some Banshees on this map, since the map is obviously a little bit tinier, which can really favor Gabe later on once he's got a whole bunch of Marines and tanks. But it's also very scary that if you do make one little mistake with your Hellions, or you get a bit too carried away at a certain point, your opponent could potentially just run to the other side of the map, like we saw with Gogo Joey, where Gogo Joey got a lot of success with just Lings and Ravagers. So I like the Banshees, not just to deal damage, but also just to send them home after they've done their job on the other side of the map, and give you a bit more map vision, and obviously keep you safe against units that don't fire up. Elazer is terribly out of position to deal with this. I don't think we have, oh my goodness, we have no Spore Crawler, we have no Overseers. Jeez Louise, this one Banshee is going to hurt, and it's already hurting, but Gabe is nowhere near done yet. I think he can find way more than this.
Absolutely. I guess the Elazer thought that because there was a Banshee or a Viking on the field that there wasn't going to be a Banshee afterwards, but it's 9 dead drones. This is 10 workers here. He's gonna pretty much until the energy runs out, he's gonna keep killing drones. And I mean, 13 workers for a single Banshee. I'm not saying Elazer's dead, but I'm not saying he's alive either here. This hurts, Roddy. How do you come back? And more Hellions thinking about diving into the third basement. At least there are Lings and Queens there, so it's gonna stop at 14. Man, Roddy, how do you come back from that?
Well, you start out by killing the Banshee and not taking any damage from Hellions, and Elazer managed to do both of those things. But you're obviously not wrong when you say that is a ridiculous amount of damage. That is very painful. The cool thing about it, by the way, for Gabe, is that it was just a single Banshee. So it's not even that he went Viking into double Banshee or he opened up a double Banshee. It is one Viking into a single cloaked Banshee. Obviously, Elazer did not expect it. Doors are kind of open on the other side of the map as Lings are going to get on top of SCVs. But HeroMarine is dialed in, pulls the SCVs away immediately. Lost maybe a single one there. And now HeroMarine should also know that if the Lings are attacking his third, they can't possibly be at home. And now he's going to drive into the natural, and he should be able to find at least a few more drones.
Well, you know, one of the ways you said that Elazer could come back into this game was by not taking more damage from the Hellions. And, well, he takes a little bit, but he also gets all the Hellions down. So that's a little bit less map control for Gabe. But he actually has an army. 1-1's done. Combat shields in 10 seconds here. Tanks on the high ground. This is a hard hold for Elazer right now. He's got Baneling speed, no upgrades. He's going to have Carapace eventually. Hydra's on the way. This pressure right here, it's a lot for Elazer to stop. In fact, do you just give this up, expand elsewhere, just not worry about this base? It's such a... I don't know how you're supposed to hold this. In fact, he's not. The base is just killed. but now the banelings on the backside here get a decent amount of Marines, and now the tank will fall. So I guess the Elazer held on long enough to at least trade the army, but north side, Roddy, that's even more.
Yep, and if these Marines are going to get this hatchery as well, losing your fourth base is always a problem. But if you have the backup, if you did the double expanding, that's obviously still a way to recover as a Zerg. But now Elazer is a 3-base Zerg. And 3-base Zerg that has not, does not have any access to Hive, is not going to get a quick Hive anytime soon. Yeah, this just seems incredibly dire. It was a best of 3 that we had pretty high expectations for. And I think the first game was fun, interesting, somewhat back and forth. Game 2 is just a bit of a nightmare. Elazer did not see that Banshee coming. HeroMarine is everywhere he needs to be. And look at Big Gabe. He's bigger than he's been in a while. That's not a cancel. It's another straight up kill. And at this point, Big Gabriel's just absolutely running away with it.
You know, Roddy, it makes sense. Halloween's in a couple days, and this is absolutely a dead Zerg walking. So, Elazer just giving us the reason for the season, right? As another base is going to get canceled here. Credit to Elazer, his supply's not that bad given how bad this game is, and he will take a fight on the bottom side, kill off some of these Marines on the retreat, but at this point, it's a 3-base Zerg. The 4th base for HeroMarine is on the way. He's got a 4th base, 2-2 halfway done, +1 mech attack, halfway done. Yeah, Elazer is not 100% dead. He's still in this game technically, but man, Roddy, it feels like this game has to go another 50 minutes maybe for him to make a maybe not that long, but the game's gonna have to go quite a while for him to be able to fight his way back into it.
It looks a lot worse now than I think it did after the Banshee. Like, the Banshee was very problematic. 14 drones versus a single Banshee is just not something that Elazer is ever going to be happy with, or any high-level Zerg. But I think after losing your 4th and 5th base at the same time, and then another hatchery getting killed because it didn't get cancelled, yeah, I think now it's even more dire than it was before. And you were already wondering if he was dead or not. Maybe the comeback is the burrowed baneling. Rain would be face-palming if he heard me talk about burrowed banelings, but I think we can all agree, and I think Elazer knows as well, that it is almost impossible, but why not try, right? You're still in the series, you have a couple of units, it doesn't hurt to try, even if you know that the outcome is pretty much set in stone. Then again, Gabe is human, maybe he move commands. Every now and then you have games of StarCraft 2 that are over if your opponent makes the right calls. Or even if they play a little bit worse than what they're supposed to, the game is over. But, you know, maybe Gabe completely falls apart. Maybe Gabe has a massive micro error here and there. It's not really up to Elazer to find his way back into this game. Perhaps HeroMarine will present him a way to get back into this game.
And you know, Elazer, back at Katowice, he played the series, I think it was against Spears, hold that thought, fight happening. HeroMarine, yeah, he's just going to force Elazer back. On the right side, though, this one has a little bit of promise. It's just Marines versus Hydroling Bane, so that's going to get forced to get lift up. But Elazer played a series versus Spirit, and the series he ended up losing at Katowice, but he had some incredible Baneling landmines to fight his way back into that series. Is now taking a pretty reasonable fight here at the front. It really is just tanks at the moment, so nice trade there from Elazer. Knocks down all the Marines, knocks some tanks down, forces HeroMarine back, and this drop in the main base, he's aware of it, but it's 8-lings do not defend this, Roddy. Even still, HeroMarine gives it up. He doesn't trust this. He's worried about the reinforcements. Okay, Elazer holds on.
Yep, Elazer now does have Hive. He's got a Viper or 2 on the production tab. You know what's an absolute bloody shame for Elazer is that he didn't have 10 or 12 links to get on top of those tanks, because he did pretty good in the bottom side of the map. He took out the vast majority of the bio units. Then imagine if you have even that accidental swarmos, right? If it would have been able to land 2 locusts or just a few links to get on top of those 4 tanks that were left all by themselves. That could have been one of these ways to start gaining some momentum and claw your way back into the game. Elazer is down 23 supply. He's down in workers. Dreaming of damage on the other side of the map, I think, is a dream that you're absolutely not allowed to have at the moment. We just need a magical engagement, and maybe with a blinding cloud or an abduct BL, you gotta look at the bright side of life, eh?
Well, you know what? The other part of that song says you always gotta look on the bright side of death, and I think that's far more applicable here when we talk about what Elazer's dealing with. He's supply blocked. He can't even get his 4th base up. It's dead again. But maybe there's that one fight, Roddy, that you're talking about. Adrenal glands done in 20, 30 seconds, but HeroMarine already down the ramp. Viper is taking damage here. Here comes Elazer. This is the fight he's got to win if he wants to make this game happen. And for now, for the start of this, the blinding clouds are really good. He's taking a lot of tanks down, but there's another line and another line as he abducts into the blinding cloud. Elazer, Roddy, Elazer's taking this fight. It's still not enough. It's still a hard position in this game.
Burrow Bailings, top right. Army of Gabe, top right. Okay, you know, another little thing that goes Elazer's way. I mean, there were more tanks there than I think there were bio units, but Elazer really did about as well as he ever could have done. And HeroMarine now realizing that, okay, this game is still looking perfectly fine for Gabe, but he's gonna have to be a little bit more cautious. You always have to respect Hive Tech Zerg. That was, in an even game, that would have been an amazing victory for Elazer. Now we look at it and be like, man, that was really good. Then a couple of burrowed Bailings connecting with a whole bunch of Marines as well is kind of good. But we need more than kind of good. We need that a few more times over, and then we can start calling it fantastic.
I mean, Roddy, look at the resources lost in this game. This is Hydraling Bane against Bio, and it's within 200 resources of each other. So you look at this and it's like, well, actually, the fact that Elazer's been on equal workers or equal economy with the Terran, not all that bad because they're trading equally. Generally, as a Zerg, you want to be up in economy because you're not trading as well. But in this game, when that keeps happening, I mean, really not that bad. And we have, I hope these are hold position lurkers. I don't know if they are or not, but oh, what a scan there from Big Gabe.
Gabe, the spidey senses are tingling. Gabe has +3 finishing up as well. Don't forget that it's no longer just going to be Marines and tanks. We've got a whole bunch of ghosts out on the map as well. 10. I feel like we blinked a couple of times and we went up to 10 ghosts. And that's, of course, because Gabe's economy has been far superior through the, compared to the economy of Elazer. Where are these Vipers? Can they do their magical thing one more time? They definitely have a bunch of energy, but this time around you need to be worried about an EMP landing on these Vipers as well, or even snipes, right? Snipes can also land on Vipers.
Well, for now, we're going to see Goat. We're going to see a couple of lurkers go down here as Elazer trying to get set up. Snipes getting triggered up here, but not on the Vipers just yet. Blinding clouds are okay, but not enough. Elazer had one miracle in the gullet. A second one doesn't seem likely. 32 lings on the way. Army supplies are kind of even. It's not the 32 lings. Where's the rest of Elazer's army?
Elazer had a lot of units, I think, still keeping track of these medevacts that were idling near his main base. Now we do get some links on top of exposed tanks. And that means that Gabriel is once more going to have to work a little bit harder to close it out. Also lost the remaining bio units, by the way, of those medevacts that were still chilling near the main. I mean, the units lost resource tab. You mentioned it before. Elazer has now lost a tiny bit more, but he's done such a great job in at least hanging in there, in battling, in putting on a show for all of us. I still don't think it's anywhere near enough, but, you know, if it keeps on happening, eventually, BO, as we now get on top of a couple of ghosts as well. Okay, HeroMarine is definitely getting a little bit reckless. There is no need to attack with one tank and a bunch of ghosts. I think if Gabe takes one moment for himself and he actually maxes out and then he gets a good setup with his ghosts and all units together. We love Terran because it's a mobile race and you can drop right, the multi-prong is fun to watch. But every now and then, Terran players can really benefit from not doing any of that, but just keeping your army together. And normally Gabe is like the president of that kind of a Terran club, where it's like, we don't need to be fancy, we don't need to drop all over the place, we just need to keep our units together and end it. But Gabe hasn't done that in quite some time, and he's still just splitting up his units. I mean, maybe Gabe thinks it's a ladder game and he's creating some content. We never know what he's recording, right? But does need to be careful that he doesn't get too carried away.
Do you think HeroMarine has too many ghosts, Roddy? I know it's easy to say. Never said. Never a thing.
No, BO. That sentence does not exist. There is no such thing as too many ghosts. On top of that, it's only 12. Like, 12 is solid. I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a sweet amount of ghosts. I wouldn't even hate a few more. 14, 16. Like, if he has over 20, I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, it's too many. But I think 12 is perfectly fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, you know, if you go to Hydraling Bane only or just Ling Bane, the ghosts can be a little bit worse, but as Elazer keeps trying to force these lurkers in, he keeps trying to make that happen. The ghost count is really nice. Now, run by on the other side on these lurkers. SCV's actually just making it so they can't burrow. Not something you see all that often. But the run by is starting to find something here. Goes to the front, Marauders as well. Elazer trying to get on top of this army. Big Gabe a little distracted. Look at the Banes. They're massive shots. but now still they're the ghost behind, and the snipes go down. Gotta run away. Lurkers, they're dead. Hydras will fall. Viper's dead as well. The first fight from Elazer was good. The second one, not enough, and HeroMarine finally